This is Jean-Jacques L'Henaff, Head of Design for DXV, and we are today in Easton, Connecticut with Christian Siriano in his new home. Christian, thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you for coming.
This is an amazing home, and I would love to have a little bit more of a discussion of where the inspiration from the renovation and the design came from with you.
Oh, the magic.
The magic. You have other properties here in Connecticut, and I know one especially in Westport. This is a very different style. This is a very different type of environment. How do you connect to these different styles, and how do you approach a renovation for these different environments?
This is why I need a DXV, because it's an old home, and I'm used to such modern elements because that's what I normally love. But originally when I found this house, this older home, it's from 1744. I mean, the character is unbelievable, which I love. But I felt like, it really needed those updates to make it functional for today. Really, it did. And because this home was for my family and I have a big family and they all want to use this house, I felt like, okay, well, why not give our main bath an overhaul and make it the most modern, gorgeous, fabulous place it could ever be, which is why I needed everything DXV. I really did. I was like, it can't be old. It's got to be new and fresh and luxury, and I love doing it.
Right, so I noticed one thing in the house is that you have a mix of some of your pieces, some of your furniture, and a lot of antiques as well.
Yeah.
And so when we were looking at DXV and some of the product, like the Belshire collection, for example, like what drew you towards this product? Is that the idea of reinterpreting the past? Or?
Yeah, I thought the product kind of looked a bit Art Deco in a way, which I really love. 30s, 40s, I love. And so maybe that's what drew me originally, that it didn't feel too modern, and it was almost like you guys designed it from the past in a way, which I love. I don't know if that was the intention, but I love the look. I felt like it felt really modern and cool, but still had, I don't know, this idea of it came from, hundreds of years ago, which I think is very important in a home. You want it to feel lived in.
Do you see a difference between with the work you do in fashion and the work you do in interior design? Because you're right, this is exactly how we design the products.
Yeah.
We went back to the research and connected to the past. I know your fashion line is a little bit more avant-garde in a way. So is it a different approach, or do you follow the same?
I think now in my career, as I've kind of, gotten older and we've made a lot of clothes, I do actually go to the past a lot. Like, I'm a really big fan of the, French, 50s and 60s, old couture houses. So I definitely think that is more inspiring. I'm also really into glamorous silhouettes. I'm not really, a jeans and a t-shirt kind of designer. I like things that are more fantasy. So I guess I think I approach a home design aesthetic somewhat in that way. I try to bring textures and fabrics that are really luxurious, but I still try to make them comfortable, which is the same with a dress. I want it to still be wearable.
Yeah. Yeah, there's form and functions. You evoke something, evoke an emotion, but still it has to feel a function. And I first of all, I have to thank you, because what you were mentioning earlier about Art Deco, this is, as I said, we go back in the past, and this whole idea behind the Belshire collection was about the glamorous part of Art Deco. And I think that's something that a lot of people are getting more sensitive to, that they want to feel fantastic.
Oh, I want glamour all the time. I don't know what people are doing. Come on.
So the rest of the bathroom, so I noticed a lot of textures on the wall. And so how do you see the bathroom? What do you think the function is, or how do you connect to it when you do an interior?
I mean, I think with this house, it is an older home, but I think it was important to make sure that it was quite clean, and it's still minimalistic in a way. There's not much to it. I think putting marble all over the walls was more of an aesthetic choice, because I felt like I wanted it to feel to have texture and to have some type of movement to the room. I think marble is a really beautiful kind of stone, because I love that no piece is alike, and I think that that's very beautiful. And maybe that kind of comes from my fashion background. I like things that feel a bit more organic, and it's not so pin perfect in a way. The fixtures can be perfect, but I like that the walls are a bit more everywhere.
That creates a dialogue, actually. It's the perfect shape of a fixture or tub with the background of patterns that you have on the wall.
Don't you think that like the faucet talks to like the sink, from the tub? I think they like chat at night.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
They talk about it. They're like, oh wow, look how pretty it is in here.
They all have their personality.
They do.
And so you have a pretty established interior line now. And so when you design the products and the furniture that you offer, like what is your process and how? I notice that you mix a little bit of, again, vintage references and more progressive designs.
Yeah.
What's your whole process?
I think it is like starting with, some type of conceptual idea usually. So I think, if I'm designing a collection, it can be anything, but it's I don't know, maybe it's more of a feeling in a way. I want the collection to feel something, right? I don't know, whatever it is. Is it old Hollywood or is it, vintage, from the past, whatever it is. So I think with furniture, I felt like I wanted it, at least with my furniture collection, I think is a bit more, it had a little postmodern inspiration in the beginning, but I also wanted the pieces to kind of feel like almost like dresses, sculptural shapes that we create when we create a dress, I think can translate into furniture. And I really like that. I think that was what was different about me as a designer. There's lots of furniture designers out there. So how do I make it different? I think that was the goal, to make them almost feel like clothing silhouettes, but that you can sit on.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. And I love that. I like that people sometimes will say like, oh, that looks kind of like a dress you have. And I think that that's interesting because that's exactly what I wanted it to be.
I remember looking at the Lula chair. It's the first one, right?
Yeah.
And you do see that very dramatic silhouette, so that it's pretty, it kind of become a showpiece in an interior.
To me, the Lula chair from the side looks like a dress on a red carpet because it starts kind of with the body and then it fans out onto the floor. So that was kind of the idea. Obviously, we, really modernized it, but I think there's always that hint of, especially how I illustrate. I sketch every single design that I've ever made. I'm pretty old school, I guess you would say, in that way. And I think when I was sketching, I was like, oh God, I'm like trying to make it like it's a fanned out chiffon gown, but I had to like keep my angles precise.
Well, the effect is, I think, pretty striking, and so it worked out very well.
Yeah.
Now, let's speak a little bit about the collaboration with DXV. What connection did you feel with the brands that encouraged you to collaborate with us?
I mean, I first and foremost, I was like, wow, I think everything felt so, just so luxurious and beautiful, and also like the weight of everything I think is very important. And sometimes like I think I loved the quality and the weight. I don't know, sometimes when you hold something and you're like, oh gosh, it just feels expensive, which I love. But I think that also every detail was very important. I mean, I'm pretty detail oriented, I think, when I make a clothing piece, when I make a dress. So I loved every little ridge, every little corner, all of those, I think, those elements, I think, were what drew me to the collection and why I picked it.
I've noticed that you chose the Belshire low spout for example, for the bathroom, and the proportion of that diameter to the transition of the body took forever to do, but it has to feel
fabulous.
right. And I imagine that probably even more difficult actually with fashion, because it's not a fixed object. It's something that evolves, but it has to fall right. It always has to fall right, and it has to.
Yes.
So speaking about all of that, we are going to be discussing very soon, or launching very soon, this bathroom and line of bath towel. How do you translate the brand into these pieces?
Well, I kind of took elements kind of from the collection, and I felt like I did bring a little bit of that Art Deco element. Even if that wasn't your inspiration, I just thought it was, and I liked that. And I felt like, having that kind of texture on the actual towel, I think makes it feel almost like a garment. I didn't want it to just be a bath towel hanging in the room. I wanted it to feel like just as fabulous as you would hang your dress up in your closet, So that was very important. I love having also my little gold signature. I thought was really a nice touch. I think anyone collecting, a fashion designer's pieces, I would want it to have a little bit of like some type of element of the Christian Siriano brand. So that's kind of my, homage to that. I sign every sketch, so why not sign every bath towel?
And I noticed that in the house, I mean, you mentioned you brought out that little gold element. I mean, I noticed that actually, like we were speaking about the stove, for example, earlier. You do bring these little accents in every area.
And it's also like, I'm also a big fan of mixed metal. I mean, I love, fixtures that all match, of course, but I do think that it's okay to have a beautiful brass sconce, and a chrome fixture. I think that that's okay. I think, I don't think the rules are as tight as they used to be. At least not like when the home is eclectic, like this one.
I love that because matching everything is not necessarily a requirement.
Yeah.
It sometimes feels a little forced, right? When in fact, just pick up the pieces you connect to and put them together. That could be actually more interesting.
And every home is, so important that it's for you in your world. You might be all about something that's more feminine and luxurious with all your faucets and fixtures, or you could be a bit more super contemporary and you want it to be as clean as possible. I think everybody has their vibe, So I think it's important that people pick what they really love and that first impression too. Like if that's your faucet, like that you gravitate to, then that's what you should put in your house. There are no rules in that way.
Trends is kind of a crutch in a way when you need to design it. It's more important to connect to something, I think.
It is. Yeah.
And have that emotion and after that things falls into place because an interior doesn't get changed every year or every 2 years.
Of course,
So it really needs to have something that you have a connection to, I imagine. Yeah.
Like good design, the whole idea of it is longevity. You want it to last. You want it to be timeless in a way. Yeah. It can be trend and new and the cool new thing, but I like things that feel a little bit timeless.
I think I read in one of your interviews about the Westport homes that you have. Speaking of that home being more contemporary, more modern, more contemporary is almost like a more neutral canvas that you can play within and change pieces on a regular basis. This one is a little bit more. You said speak about timeless. I mean, 1744. So. Do you do the same thing here? Do you actually play the same way?
That's also me. Like I am a big fan of. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of stuck in fashion where you change your clothes quite often and you change your style up. So I probably overchange my style a little bit too much. I think people need to keep their sofa longer than I want to keep my sofa. But, I do like that idea that you can change a few things in your house and it feels really new and special again. I've always loved that.
And I noticed that you have also art is playing a big role in your interior. So you have the same approach of changing a bit your environment with different art pieces.
I want to switch out the art right now. Every single room. No, just because it's like you've seen it. All right, it's cool. But now I want to put it somewhere else, and I want to bring in something totally different because it'll create a totally different mood.
Yeah.
I think also like when friends or family are coming into your home, it's great to create a mood and to create kind of like an atmosphere. And I think art does that. Because when you have weird art, people are like, what is this?
Yeah. We often speak at DXV, we often speak about stories and that the product should tell a story, but that's what you're describing here. So products in your art basically being conversation pieces. And so I can see a lot of connections there.
Yeah. So. Anybody that goes into my bathroom, I hope they have a chat with all the fixtures.
So more specifically in the bathroom, the shower. The shower area is pretty important from what I understand in your approach. So I noticed that you have the slim valve with the hand shower and the shower head.
We need it all.
We
need it all.
So did you design, when you designed the bathroom, was that like a core piece right at the start? Or
I just knew that I think it's very important, I think it's very important to have that spa-like feeling. I think especially for people, like me who are really busy people every day. I don't know, my shower moment is kind of like my therapist. Like we really relax in there and just chill and zen out. And I think having all of those elements were very important to me. At least with this remodel, I wanted it to have everything I could possibly have in this kind of small space.
And you have also an absolutely gorgeous setting for the tubs, the oak hill tub.
Yes. And did you like my position on the tub? Okay,
absolutely.
I did that so you can see out the window because I want to lay in there, see out the window, which is also just like a beautiful Zen-like feeling moment.
Yeah.
If you can't get to the spa, you're there, and you can fall asleep and it feels great. But I really love that because I wanted it to feel submerged in the room, but still kind of, there's nothing around it, so it feels really kind of almost like sculpture, like a piece of art.
It is very sculptural the way you placed it, and I I imagine that, so being you're very urban, having your studio in New York and working in New York and everything, so this actually is probably the perfect place to...
This is the getaway.
Yeah.
This is like the ultimate place to just have a Zen moment and really kind of escape. And I think that bathroom is all about, it's really like true escapism.
Well, Christian, thank you so much. That was a wonderful time this afternoon. I really appreciate, first of all, your choice of products.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for spending some time with us.
It looks gorgeous.
Thank you.